dang it, I just spilled a bunch of fucking oil. Fucking My name is Zach Ellis and welcome to my journey. I don't know where I'm going or how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to be tearing shit up every step of the way. Along with a few friends, of course. Honestly, I don't know what I'm going. I'll be building, modifying, repairing, fabricating, and racing every chance I get. Terrifying. But if you enjoy this content, don't forget to smash the subscribe button, and of course, enjoy the video. Chilly, boys. Let's see what the thermometer says. 4. Not too bad. Boom. Alright guys, so today we are actually, man, it's cold. Today I'm going to be installing a oil cooler on my car. I know these cars come factory with one. Well, I'm going to upgrade and get one into my front bumper. Main reason for that is when I was racing, I did notice after I'd run, I'd let the car idle for a few minutes to try and cool the oil down a little bit, turn the car off, come back like 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later, however long, I'd start the car, the oil light would come on for a few seconds. I'm thinking that is due to the oil being so hot that it's thinning out. I combated that last season by running a little bit heavier weight oil in the summertime, just so it maintained its viscosity, I guess you could say. So now that it's the off season and I have a little bit of time, I'm gonna go ahead, delete the original one, and I'm gonna install the aftermarket one. Let me show you it real quick. Alright, so this is the new oil cooler. I think it's some Chinese crap. I don't really know. We're gonna give it a go. If it does alright, awesome. If this one sucks, I'll just swap it out for something a little bit better. So I'm going to start by pulling off the front bumper and go from there. Got the bumper off, sitting here behind me, in front of the car. I was messing around a little bit with placement of this. I just wedged it back behind here. Get the heck out of there. Finding a place that this is gonna fit is gonna be kinda tough. I was thinking it could be like this. Put it in there vertically like this. I have a bunch of options. I could throw it in at an angle like this. It's all about finding a place that this thing will fit, you know, because it's not a lot of room in here. All right, so I've kind of been messing around with the oil cooler a little bit. What I think I'm going to end up doing actually is removing the windshield wiper fluid container for the time being at least, and mounting it over here somewhere vertically. The only reason I'm going to do that is it's the easiest option at this point. I do plan on changing my intercooler setup. Realistically, it's probably going to be next season. So I figured one season of mounting this thing vertically right here, it should be fine. And if I decide I want to keep it here, I'll end up upsizing this oil cooler, because this one's like the smallest one I could find. And the reason I got the smallest one is because of the amount of space we have to work with. But I think that's what I'm going to do. Just delete the windshield wiper fluid reservoir and mount it over here vertically. I went all season without having windshield wiper fluid anyway, only because one of my nozzles was broke, so every time I went to squirt it, it would just blow coolant all over, or windshield wiper fluid all over my turbo, which obviously not a very good thing. But my future plans, I've already kind of parted it out a little bit, priced it out. I found an intercooler. It's similar to this size here. The only difference is the overall width of it. I think this one is 29. The one that I'm going to get is, I think it was 26, 25. Either way, it was like 3 or 4 inches narrower, but the actual intercooler portion was the same size. So what I think I'm going to end up doing is taking the intercooler and sliding it over closer to this side, so that way I can put a tight 90-degree radius there, and this is going to leave me more area on this passenger side for a larger oil cooler, because the width of the oil cooler from here to here is pretty much the same across the board for most of them. Usually the only thing that changes is the amount of rows. Like this is a 10. It'd be cool if I could get like a 13 row in here, but then I'll be able to mount it vertically, or I'll just have more room between this frame horn and the edge of the intercooler. But that's what I'm thinking right now. I'm not 100% positive that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and start by removing the windshield wiper fluid reservoir. Then I got to run out to my other garage and get some stuff. I'm going to get the ramps to pull this thing up on the ramps. But yeah, I'll keep you guys posted. All right, car's up on the ramps now. Smells like straight ass. All right, car's up on the lift, or ramps, I mean. I'm gonna go ahead and start mounting this oil cooler. The bolt holes right here, where the coolant reservoir bolted up, it matches right up with that. And then the top bolt hole, I don't know if you can see it, it's off by a hair, but for the most part it fits pretty well. So I'm gonna go ahead, hook up the oil lines to it, get them underneath the car just to get an idea where everything needs to go, and we'll go from there. Alright, so there's the oil cooler, the 2 fittings, the hoses run down here. Let me grab my light. Hoses running right here parallel. I go up over the traction bar, over the H brace, and basically I'm running parallel to the intercooler piping here, just because that's the easiest route to get back to the oil filter. So you see the lines, they'll plumb right to where they need to be. I gotta drain the oil, pull the oil filter off, remove the oil cooler, and then install my big filter kit and then the sandwich plate adapter. So, but you get an idea where the hoses will be. I'm gonna zip tie them all up and make sure they look nice and they're secure, and we'll go from there. Alright, so we got the actual filter attachment that bolts to the block, or to the oil pan, and then to the oil cooler, then to the filter. So we're going to clean this up, and then we're going to replace this gasket here with the big filter gasket, which I'll show you that here in a second. Alright, so this is the adapter here that attaches the oil cooler and oil filter to the oil pan. So we got to remove this gasket, and we're going to be installing this gasket. So you can see how thick this one is. It's about maybe a 1/16 of an inch, versus this one's like 3/8 of an inch. We won't be needing this anymore. We can trash it. Yeah, there are people online that'll stack like 3 of these stock gaskets together in order to get the same effect as the spacer. But this thing here is like, I think it was 30 bucks. I'd say just buy this for 30 bucks rather than trying to source 3 of these. But that's just my opinion. This is just, when you stack 3 gaskets together, you're asking for leaks. So it doesn't make sense to me. So get rid of that, clean this surface up a little bit. I forgot brake clean, so that's kind of shitty, but I do have isopropyl alcohol, which will do the same freaking thing. Alright, so I've got the oil cooler, the stock oil cooler all removed. Now I'm working on the sandwich adapter. This basically is going to bolt in place of the stock oil cooler, so I can put the AN fittings from the new oil cooler plumb to this, and the whole system works. These are -10. I put Teflon tape on the threads into this fitting just to help mitigate any leaks. The next thing I got is there's 2 fittings, one on each side. I'm going to stick my oil pressure sending unit in one side, and then I've got a oil temp gauge now. I'm gonna stick the oil temp sensor on the other side of this fitting. Mainly because the whole reason of getting an oil cooler is to run cooler oil temps. I don't know what my oil temps is. I don't know what my oil temps are without running a gauge, so here's the gauge. So there's the sensor. Pretty simple, nothing crazy. Just gotta see where we're gonna put her in here. Cool, temperature sensor is installed. So now that I've got the temperature sensor installed, I'm gonna tighten these 2 AN fittings up, and then I'm gonna go ahead and mount it in the car. Here we go. So this sensor is like almost touching, which I'm not real worried about, but I don't know if I want to switch sensor to this side. So I got the 90-degree fittings in on the sandwich plate. You can see the sandwich adapter right here with the fitting in the center. It's not tightened down right now, it's kind of floating, only because I'm going to pull it out and relocate the temperature sensor. But I got 190 in for the feed line. The return line, I'm waiting for the other 90 to come in still. But I'm going to take these lines, I'll secure them to the intercooler piping just to get them up out of the way, just in case. Not that they're really gonna be dragging or anything. The lowest part of the car is still the H-brace. So I've got everything that I can get done under the car done today. I have to wait for the other 90 to come in before I can fill it up with fluid and test hit the car. What's up guys, back for the second day now to finish up this oil cooler install. I just went out and got a new 90-degree fitting. So another Fragola fitting. If you guys have never used AN fittings, I will tell you that they are very expensive. I think between the three 90s that I have, it cost me about $150 for the three. So something to think about in the future. But so far, I've got the adapter, the sandwich plate in there, secured down, and I've got these AN fittings locked into place. So they're tightened and kind of ran where I need them to be run. The only thing left I have to do under here is replace these two hose clamps with correct size hose clamps, and then install oil filter obviously. And then the last thing I got to do up here on the top side, for the most part, is I just have to secure the oil cooler itself. So it's going to be close to vertical but not completely vertical. The only thing I'll have to do at a later date is down here I have to get hose or sheathing to protect these from rubbing on this part of the body. But I'm going to do that at a later date. The only reason I'm not going to do it now is because I'm not going to be driving the car once this is on. I'm going to install it, tighten everything down, fill it with oil, start it, let it idle, get up to temperature, and then I'm going to come back probably next week, fix that, install the gauge, and button up some loose ends that I have floating around. But for now, I'm going to go ahead, drill this hole, completely secure the oil cooler, and then we'll go from there. So I was trying to run it vertically, but vertically would hit the fog light mount. So it's gonna have to be at a slight angle at a minimum. Alright, I got an idea where it can and cannot go. So I'm gonna remove the bumper and go ahead and mount it officially. So I'm gonna say something like that. It's almost vertical. It's a slight angle back, but I don't think it's enough to make any difference. So I'm gonna use the bolts that were used to hold the windshield wiper fluid reservoir in. All I'm doing is taking the bolt size and I'm finding a drill bit that is the same diameter as the shaft inside of the threads or inside of the helical part of the screw. So once I find that, which I'm close here, this might be a little small, I'll drill the hole, see if this screws in. If it doesn't, I'll upsize one more drill bit and then see if this screws in. looks killer there. Alright, so now that I've got it mounted, I'm going to double check by putting the bumper back on again. I really want to make sure that this thing doesn't hit or even get close to the fog light bolts. Mainly because if that fog light was to wiggle back and rub through one of these fins and it starts to leak, obviously that creates a bunch of issues. So confirm that it fits and it doesn't contact this, and then I'll put 2 more bolts in it and we'll start filling it with oil. Alright, so we got the fittings all tightened up underneath the car, the oil filters installed, the old coolant lines that were going to the OEM oil cooler, they're all secured and out of the way. I battled with them for like a half hour because they kept leaking, so I had to do double hose clamps on it until I can get back under here one day and actually cap off where the hose comes back out from and just delete the hose completely. But let me take you under here real quick so you can kind of see the filter setup with the routing of the lines. Come out here, we'll fill up the oil cooler, fill up the engine, and go from there. Alright, so this is the setup. So it's sandwich plate, big filter. The fittings come out the backside at like a 45-degree angle, and they just hug up against this intercooler piping. I'm pretty happy with how it's all set up. This thing hangs down, this fitting hangs down like 1/8 of an inch lower than the little scoop for the power steering reservoir, just so you guys get an idea of how low it is. But the H-brace itself hangs down about 1/8 inch lower than that, and then the bolt for it's even lower. So it's not the lowest part of the car, luckily, because if it was, that would be kind of crappy. If I had to do it again, I'd have these hoses come up over top of the intercooler piping and run through here and then all the way around the intercooler piping, just so that way it's even higher. But I might do that at a later date, but for now this is going to suffice. So now we're going to hop out and start filling the oil cooler itself. Alright, so oil cooler's here. I'm going to try and get some oil into the top fitting here so it fills up the bottom of the reservoir. I'm just going to be using Royal Purple 5W30. I've got a long funnel. That ain't even gonna work. Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do because this ain't gonna work. Dang it, I just spilled a bunch of oil. Alright, so now that I've got the oil cooler has a little bit of oil in it, I put not quite a half a quart into it. I'm sure it's slowly filling the hoses. I'm going to go ahead and fill the engine up with oil, and then I'm going to disconnect the spark plugs so that the engine won't actually start. I'm just going to turn it over. The reason I'm doing that is I'm using the oil pump to prime the engine. Typically, not a big deal if you're just on an oil change, but since there's so much new capacity to the engine, I'd like to try and push oil and get all the air bubbles out of the system, so that way when I start the engine, I don't lose oil pressure at all. All throughout that process, I'm going to be coming back and checking periodically underneath the car to make sure there's no leaks. When you put this many fittings onto something, there's basically every joint is a point of failure. So I could potentially have a dozen leaks. Hopefully I don't have any, but theoretically you could. So I'm going to go ahead, add the oil, and start this process. So we ain't got no leaks yet, which is good. Everything up here is good. Obviously no spark, which we knew was going to be the case. Hop in here. Hopefully my battery's not dead. There's the oil pressure gauge. Alright, so that was cranked. So now that we've cranked it, we're going to check the oil level again to see if there's any leaks, or to see if there's oil in the system. Right now there's no leaks underneath the car, which is good. As you can see, clean slate. But I'm going to go ahead, check the oil level, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so car is idling fine, 14 volts. AFR is a little crazy right now, but it's alright. Oil pressure, got perfect oil pressure. So we're going to check for leaks underneath the car. So, no leaks. Oil cooler, no leaks. Minus where I spilled it all over this thing. Well, she's idling fine. Oil pressure is still good. I'm happy with that. I'm gonna let it idle a little bit, try to get a little bit of temperature in it. So, oil cooler is in. I'm pretty happy with its placement. I think it looks pretty good there. I think I'm going to relocate the horn to the inside of that frame horn rather than on the outside. No real reason, mainly if air does get in there, I don't want the horn to be sitting there blocking it, even though it's pretty much tucked in there and there's not going to be a whole lot of air blowing across it. But, well, I don't know that for a fact, but in theory. Next week I'm going to install a temperature gauge and see if it actually makes a difference. Hopefully if the weather clears up. It snowed again yesterday. If the weather clears up, I'm going to test drive the car and get some heat into it, do some pulls, and see how it reacts. It's got to be better than stock, right? I guess we'll see. But for now, I'm going to throw an oil pan underneath the car just so if it does leak, the oil doesn't go all over the floor. Hindsight, I probably should have used a little bit cheaper oil than Royal Purple, which, I mean, I guess it is what it is. I think I put like $60 worth of oil into it, so if it all leaks out, I guess I'm only out 60 bucks, right? But yeah, all in all, the install is pretty simple. Obviously, if you already have a big oil filter kit installed on the car, that's going to save you a little bit of time. Or if you deleted your stock oil cooler for whatever reason, that's going to save you some time. I think that was the biggest time consumer, was getting them damn lines capped. And I didn't even do it the way that I wanted to. I just kind of did it a way to get the car operational. But yeah, it's all installed, no leaks so far from either coolant or oil. And then next week I'm going to go ahead and install the temperature gauge and see if I can see any sort of difference, or at least see what the engine oil temps are now versus when I start running it hard, to see if they fluctuate a lot or not. But if you guys are interested in all this stuff that I got here, I'll link it in the description so you can go ahead and buy everything that I bought. I think I got everything off of Amazon. Oh, minus the Dash 10 90-degree AN fittings. I bought those from Summit Racing, but I'll see if I can find some on Amazon. I'm sure they got some cheaper ones on there. Just because those three 90-degree fittings, they were like $45 a piece. So I mean, you're talking $130 just in the 90-degree fittings. First, if you can find some $10 ones or $15 ones, you know, it's going to be $40 worth of fittings, which, I don't know. It's an Amazon kit, so I don't know why I spent so much money on the 90-degree fittings, but it is what it is, right? But yeah, other than that, guys, if you like this video, don't forget to smash the like button, and obviously subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if there's something that you want to see me do in the future, or if you think there's something I did incorrectly or I could do better, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. Hopefully I can justify my reasoning behind what I did or what I didn't do. But other than that, I'll see you guys on the next one.